Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact at DevOps School.
Now so this is how, I mean, the we can, once we are able to see this test page, we are sure that our particularly our file is working. Okay, I mean our whatever we have installed httpd apache server, that is working fine. So the next thing is quite straightforward. Let's go ahead and let's add some web page. So where do you need to add the web page? So you need to add the web page inside var.html only. So let's create one web page, that is index.html, and so it should end with the HTML. And let me just give you something like, I'll just say h1. H1 is a heading type. This is my web page, and let me close this particular configuration. So this is just a basic configuration that I'm trying to do. I can say this is subtitle, something of that sort. And let me save this particular thing. So once you save this particular file, so you will have to do it using root or sudo. So I'll just copy so that I don't lose the data. And let's say sudo vi index.html. Let me add this particular web page. Let me save. And as you know, when you want to reload the service, you will have to do systemctl reload httpd. So once you reload this application, now if you try to call the localhost :80, it is going to show you this particular data that you have put here. So let's try to refresh this particular example. So it is telling you the data that you have submitted there, right? So you can, as per your requirement, you can go ahead and you can change something like this. And I'll just say, I'll go outside of this file. I'll again say sudo vi index.html, and I can just copy this particular thing, and I can just give some different types of data that you want. So see, this is called as a static web page. So you are specifying some kind of data. Okay, let me save it. Let me restart it. Systemctl restart or reload httpd. So if you reload, will again require the sudo permissions. So I'll just say Control C, and I will rerun this particular command using sudo. Let's call it. So this is what is available. Let's try to refresh it. Okay, so you see different types of headings are now available. So this is what, this is how you install the web page, the web package, and you configure or you run your first web server on the Apache. Okay, and this is how it is available. So once you understand that, so let's go ahead and let's understand what is a virtual host. So any questions until here?
No.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's understand what is a virtual host. So the concept behind virtual host is pretty straightforward. So what virtual host is, so let's say there is a one server. Okay. Now on this server, now as I mentioned you that we created some index.html file. Now let's say, what if I want to run multiple web servers on the same server? So multiple web pages. So one example can be, let's say you work in XYZ company, so that is xyz.com, and your company itself is having another domain, that is, let's say www.xyz.org. Let's assume that way. So now let's say you want to run this website as well as this website on the same server. So what you are going to do? So simple answer to this question is, so you are going to create the virtual host. So you are going to create a virtual host. So what is a virtual host? So virtual host is nothing but it will behave as if there are two web servers those are running. Okay. So let's see how we can go ahead and configure the web server. So let's go ahead and let's install this particular web server. So we will have to add some data. So I'll just go ahead and I will just add some data. So I'll just follow the same guide. So okay, so now as I'm mentioning that I want to create my own domain, right? So when you want to create your own domain, that is a different domain, so you will have to create another website or another directory inside your www directory. So see, if you go here currently, this is your pwd, that is where wwd. Now here if you see, there are only two directory, one is html and one is cgi bin. So in this particular directory you will have to create another directory for your domain. So let's create this particular directory here. So what we are going to do is, so we are creating a directory and I can give here, let's say example.com. Okay, and let me just enter it. So it is going to give you now two things, like one is html and another is example.com. So let's go inside example.com, and here now you have html again. Now inside this html, whatever you will create, so that file will be referred when you try to access the example.com. Now there might be one question for you. So let's say now there are two names, so how it will be, identifying and redirecting to the correct website, right? So basically one web server can have multiple ip addresses, so you can assign multiple.
Hey viewers, our Master in DevOps engineering program can help you to hone the skills necessary to succeed in high-level DevOps positions. So, what are you waiting for? Enroll now and earn certification that show you are keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Multiple ip addresses to one server. And again, what you can do, you can bind those addresses with the IP addresses, or as you are creating the virtual host, so while configuring this particular web page, what you are going to do is, so whenever the traffic is reaching on 80 port, so you are configuring such that this particular traffic will be routed to www and then your company domain.com. Okay, so that's what we are going to do now. So what we are going to do is, so basically let's create an additional directory to store logs as well. So I'll just copy that, again the same thing, and I will create here the log directory as well. In this particular directory we will be storing the logs. So let me add that here, and yeah, so I have created this directory. And now next is assigning the ownership of this particular directory with the current user, because see, now as you can see this particular website that we are running, so if I try to go ahead using normal user, right, if I try to go ahead in this particular directory and want to create something, so it will not allow us, right? So that's why I am just changing the ownership of this particular directory, that is var www, and that is your particularly example.com. Slash https, and I'm just saying chown means change ownership to this current user. So if you do ls-ld now, you will be able to see that this particular server is now owned by this particular directory is owned by this user. Okay, so user is sent to us. So now once you do that, the next thing is you have to make sure that the owner is having the correct permission, that is read write execute, and the other users should have at least a read and so that is a read plus execute permission. So 5 means read plus execute permission. So let's give that to var dub. Then the next thing you have to do is, so you have to create a sample HTTP page. So I'll just go ahead and create the sample HTTP page. So let me just add this particular data that says welcome to your website, success, the example domain virtual host is working. Okay, so this is like the same page that we have created. Okay. Okay, so I'll just say, since we have changed the ownership permission, let me see. Okay, so you have to change this particular, your domain to example.com. Okay, let's go ahead and let's copy that data. So once you add that data, so what is going to happen now is, so you are now able to edit the data. So let's say success and the example.com virtual host is running. So that's what we should be able to see. All right, so now once you save this particular website, you have to make sure that this particular site is available. So we should make sure that this particular site that we have created should be available. So that's what we have to do. So we have to create another directories. So we are just creating two directories here, and then the next thing is pretty straightforward. The last thing, that is you need to add the website, you need to configure the website. So see, now if you go here, okay, if you go here and if you try to see again, it is going to show you the same web page, even though you have configured the different web server, but it will not going to tell you unless and until you configure the add the configurations for that. So let me just edit this particular file. So this is the configuration file, as I mentioned, right? etc httpd conf httpd.conf. So this is a configuration file, and in this particular file you have to add this particular line, include optional. So site enabled star conf. So that means, if you remember, we have created this particular site enabled directory, right? Now inside that, whatever configuration you mention, that should be enabled. So that is what we are doing here. Include options means what? So we are going to create some configuration file here, and that should be enabled and that should be taken into account while writing those things. So I'll just quickly add this line. So I'll just say shift key, and so here you see, if you say O and if you paste that, so you can see that this particular example, this particular optional is already there, and it is uh, adding this conf.d star conf. So that means whatever you create inside conf.d, it will be automatically taken as a configuration file. Okay, because every time you reload the service, it is going to read this particular file. So this is very important file, etc httpd conf.d. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, sorry for that. So yeah, I was discussing about this particular website and what we are going to do. So what I have mentioned here is, so I'm mentioning that whatever configuration file I mentioned in this particular directory, that should be taken into account, right? That's what I'm mentioning. And why I'm creating that directory is that I don't want to I don't want to touch the main configuration file for my configuration. So what may happen if I touch the main configuration file? So we might end up doing some mischiefs, and then our main web server will also go down. So that's what we don't want, right? So that is why I am enabling this particular site enabled, which is available again in the etc httpd conf directory. We are just going to in etc httpd, we are just going to create a site enabled directory. And now inside here, let's create one configuration file. So let me just open one configuration file. So I'll just say something like example conf. I'll just open up this file and let me just share you what is this particular thing. So I'll just explain everything once I copy the data. So see, what we are mentioning here is quite straightforward. So we are mentioning, we are creating one virtual host. What is a virtual host again? It is a technique to run multiple websites on a single server. And now in this example, what I am going to do.
Hey viewers, trying to get into DevSecOps? Enroll for our DevSecOps certified professional programs and earn the certification that shows you are fit for these technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
So I'm going to create a virtual host that is having, that should be, now when you mention the star, right? So this star means this particular traffic will be allowed from the all the IP addresses on this host. Okay. So this particular website will have all the IP, like let's say this server have two IP addresses or four IP addresses. So on which IP address this particular server should be listening, right? So we are mentioning star, that means on all the IP addresses on 80 port it will be available. Now the next thing we have to configure is giving the server name. So server name is like www.example.com. Okay, and you can give something like your domain as example.com. So server alias is nothing but it is kind of shortcut or a short name, that is kind of a nickname that you give to your particular server. So that is what is a server alias is. Then document root. So where your document root is. So document root means where your index.html file will be present. So my file will be is available inside example.com html. So because we have created our file, if you remember, we have created our file in that. Now again the same thing in case of error log, where do you want to store the error log? So again I'll just copy paste it here, example.com, and again let's give this here as well. So this is a configuration, basic configuration. Now this particular configuration you can directly add to http.conf file also. Okay, this particular configuration file that you are adding, so it can be added inside etc httpd conf. So it is conf directory, and inside that we will have something like httpd conf file. Now you can add the virtual host in this particular directory also, this particular file also. So this is like a main file and it is having lots of information. So we definitely we are going to discuss some more options when we provide that particular port based authentication, right? So now the next thing that I want to discuss with you is that, so once we have configured this particular thing, so let's move ahead and let's understand how we can go ahead and activate this particular host. So to activate this particular host, what we are going to do is, so you are just creating a soft link. Okay, so this particular thing is nothing but a soft link, and this particular soft link is having so you are just creating one soft link so that it will be available from this particular sites available to this particular sites enabled. So let me copy that. So this particular command, what it does is, so basically it creates a soft link. Okay, ln-s is creating a soft link from this particular file to this file. So what is going to happen is, so you will have to change again here the configuration, that is your example.com or example conf, and again let me give it here as well. Okay, so once you do that, so it is going to create a soft link. And now the last thing is, so you need to adjust the SE Linux policies for your web server. So what is SE Linux policies are nothing but so SE Linux is again a security policies that are required when so those are like mostly enabled or available inside Linux system. So let's set this particular boolean. So this will allow the HTTP thing to work properly. So let me set this particular thing, set this boolean. And once you do that, so actually it is a very it may seem a lengthier process, but once you get accustomed to it, so you will be able to understand what is going to happen. Okay, so we have set up this particular thing. Let me get the SE Linux status. uh, okay, so it is in enforcing mode, right? Get enforce shows you what is the current SE Linux status that you have. So again, you have to give some context as well. Now what is the context basically? So let me explain you what is this particular SE Linux is in short. So what this SE Linux does is, so this SE Linux is a like higher level of security that is available inside our Linux. And now this particular SE Linux will manage the things based on the context. So this your application must have the proper context. Okay, so wherever your application is storing data, so that particular data should have proper context. Then only it will be accessible from outside of the world. So let's go ahead and add this particular thing very quickly. So the first thing we are going to add is, so let's check the context of our particular log directory. So I'll just say copy this and let's check what is the context of this particular thing. Okay, so it is having httpd sys content. Okay, so particularly you should also add your files, this particularly this httpd log underscore t to your directory. So let's go ahead and let's say, so currently we have httpd sys content to our example.com, right? So that's what is mentioned here. So let's go ahead and change the this particular f context. So as we manage f context hyphen a hyphen t, we are specifying httpd log underscore t, and we are going giving it to the all the log files. Okay, so we are just making sure that we have a proper permission to write the logs. Okay, so that our application can write or web page can write the logs inside this particular file. So let me just say yes, and then you have to just say restore gone, so it will store whatever it will be persisted across the reboot. So that's what is the last thing around this particular SE Linux. I'll just say example.com. So restore con is set up.
Hey viewers, are you looking for formal training on SRE practices? Take our SRE program. This course will teach you how to successfully implement site reliability engineering in the modern day 24/7 services. Kickstart your SRE training today. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Now the last thing, you can again list it and check if your thing is proper or not. So let's go ahead and check for our example.com if the context is set or not. So if you check for that, it is going to tell you that okay, now the context has been set for the log directory. We have set up the context as the httpd underscore log underscore t. All right, so once you do that, so you will have to restart the httpd server, so that your new configuration that you have created will be active, so it will be taken into account. So once you do that, now you have you if you do the if you do the content, if you check the content of this particular file or the log directory, so automatically once you restart it, it should create the two log files for you. So let me check if the log files are created or not. So you can check that there are error log and request logs are created in this particular directory which was empty, so it is created by us. So as soon as you give this particular syntax or as a manage context, so it is going to create those files. Now the next thing is, so let's say you want to check the server that you are is running or not. So simply you can just say curl, and you can say http colon, and first of all, see, if I do ns lookup and if I do example.com, it is not going to, okay, ns lookup is also not found. So let me just install nettools. So or you can do, let's say, to check if it is working or not, you can just run dig command. So see, particularly any web server you want to run, right? So that particular web server should have the DNS resolution, correct? So for now, so you have to make sure that in example.com you give the proper DNS resolution, right? Now for this example, what we can do, since we want a local DNS resolution, you can just go ahead in etc host file and add the DNS entry for that. So you can just go ahead here and you can just say example.com, or you can just say localhost, or just give the IP address. So I'll just copy some IP address. So let me just come out of this file and I'll just say IPAS grep inet. Let's copy this particular thing and let's say sudo vi etc host. Let's go to this line. Let's add the IP address and let's give example.com. So we might need to install NSLOOKUP to show you that particular thing. So let me just see. I think it is a part of NetTools. Uh, Maybe bind tools. Okay, so we don't have netstat. So let me check. I did not remember this particular package. Sorry, NSLOOKUP. So let me just quickly get the package name. So that is bind utils. So I think I had mentioned bind. Okay, bind tools. So it is a bind utils that you need to install. So I'll just say sudo yum install bind utils, and then it is going to install some packages for me. And now if I do nslookup command, so it should work. Okay. Now if I want to check if I can get the IP address of Google, so I can just check nslookup google.com. It will give me the IP address of google.com. Now let me check the example.com, is it working or not. So if I do example.com, so it should give me the IP address that this is not our IP address. So let me just see. Let me see the example.com is resolving or not. So basically it should give you the address of your localhost that is there. But yeah, I mean, let me see if we can reach to the example.com. Okay. So I think this actually example.com is a domain already taken by someone else. So that is why it is telling this way. But yeah, I mean, it will be a long way to go. Once you add this particular thing, it should give you this particular example domain. So let me just see. So what is the basically the virtual host is doing here? So it works with the this particular name that you are providing here. Okay, so whatever name you are providing here, that matters a lot, because on that basis only you are going to reach to your server. Okay, so any questions in this particular virtual host, like what we are doing and why, what, or any steps? Okay.
No.
Okay. So now, so what you do when you try this example, instead of example.com, take some random name or random URL that is not available on the internet. So that will then be, you will be able to get the output, so that is not an issue. So once you understand that, let me just see if I can get IP. Well, it should take values from here. I'm not sure why it is not taking. Basically, this etc host file is the file that it takes the value from. Okay. Anyway, just try it with some other URL. It will definitely work for you. So once we got and once we understood what is this particular local host is, so let's move ahead with the agenda that we have, and let's understand what kind of what is the error logs and what is what kind of logging we have. Okay. So let's move back to our directory, that is var www uh, html, and then if you move to this particular directory, you will see that there is index.html file is present. And
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.